usual sort of story, guys. If we can just mute ourselves unless we've got a question, and then we can have a chat with Rito and Salmaan. Rito, if we can quickly just start with you. How good has it been? Obviously, in lockdown, you guys were doing a lot of reading and research, and obviously you can't do contact training now, but how good has it been to turn the theory into practice a little bit and actually work with the players and be back amongst each other again?
Yeah, no, it's been good fun, Mikey. Everyone's happy to be back. Started working again. The players have been enjoying it. The coaches have been enjoying it. And yeah, we have started implementing a few of the things that we planned to do, things that we researched, things that we thought we were not really that good at beginning of the year. So it's been a lot of fun.
And I suppose also, like specifically with the forwards, a lot of people think about, forwards, your guys' preparations, and they just think more sessions, scrum sessions, physicality. But people might not realize there's a lot of planning, especially around set pieces, that goes into what you guys do. And some might argue it's more complicated than what the backs have to do in terms of their preparations. So, how's that been going? And in terms of new innovations, are you guys excited about what you've been working on?
Yeah, I think that the big thing, what we've started working on now is just making sure that we've got a fit pack. We're working hard to make sure we've got a good aerobic base. One thing we've always been good at is good line out, good maul, good scrum, but now we just want to make sure that our pack can operate from minute 1 to minute 80. So we're setting a very good aerobic base at this stage so that we're effective throughout all phases of the game, from start to finish.
Cool. Salmaan, if we can go to you quickly, just on that. Obviously, lockdown is different for different people and players, but you've obviously had quite a good lockdown, kept quite fit. Has that been a positive for you now coming into the training, that you're feeling good?
Mike, I think, as you mentioned, the lockdown has been different for everyone. Everyone had their own experience of it, but I think for most players, it was a good time to just recruit and recover. I think I wouldn't say it came at a good time, but I think in the long run, I think something like the lockdown could be beneficial for your career. It could lengthen your career, but not only in the long run, but I think short term as well, it was good. Guys spend a lot of time on the white backs that we were given. So I feel the squad itself is in good shape. Obviously, we still have certain places to improve on, but generally, I feel the guys are generally fit.
Yeah, and then just from a player's point of view, obviously you guys are working in your groups of 5 at the moment, but how good has it been to see your mates again and to be in each other's company and working that you're not just running on your own?
Yeah, it's been amazing, Mike. I think during this lockdown, it gave each and every player a bit of hunger to get back. The players are all excited. As you said, we're working in smaller groups, unfortunately, but I guess it's better than working on your own. And it's great to be out on the field and throwing the ball around. I think that's what we miss the most. And obviously there is that bit of competitive edge that we've been missing.
Cool. All right, guys, if there are any questions from your side, we can start shooting. Gavin?
I'd actually like to just ask Salmaan if he'd elaborate on what he said about lengthening careers. I'm assuming that's because you've had a good break now, but I suppose at the same time as you've had a good break, it could actually be ruined if you sort of come back too unscientifically, if you know what I'm saying. If you rush back too quickly, because you've sort of been away from contact for so long, there could actually be a sort of another kind of effect if say you started playing too soon. Would you agree with that? And if you can just elaborate on why you're saying that it might lengthen your career, because I think it's quite an interesting point.
Just to answer your question, I think previously, if you think of a player like Dan Carter, for instance, I remember there was a time in his career he took a 6-month sabbatical, and I actually read something where he mentioned how something like the lockdown could be beneficial for players, and how it could lengthen your career. But at the same time, as you mentioned, it's really important that we create a good base before we play rugby again. I'm pretty sure that we will be allowed to have at least about 5 weeks of proper contact training before we start playing rugby, and that should be good for us, especially concerning injuries. And yeah, it'll be detrimental if you do get injured starting to play too early.
Thanks.
Salmaan, how's it going? You mentioned Daniel Carter, but we know a guy like Brodie Retallick. He's also, I think, also undergoing a sabbatical. So I suppose for locks, and especially a guy like him playing at that high level, it holds true for him as well.
Yeah, I think, Adnan, to answer your question, I think especially for forwards, the amount of contact that you take these days it's really high. So I think I truly believe that this is something that could benefit you. But at the same time, you need to be smart about it and prepare your body to return back to rugby again.
And just on the New Zealand side, we've seen the attrition rate is quite high with the injuries.
Yeah.
A lot of their players, frontline All Blacks, especially lock, like Scott Barrett and so on, they're quite thin at lock at the moment.
Yeah.
So it might work out in the box favor when they get back, that our guys are fresh.
Yeah, I think that's just testimony to the fact that the New Zealand teams might have started a bit earlier. I think I'm speaking under correction, but they might have had about a 4-week preseason before they started playing. So I think what's really good about the South African Rugby Union is that we are preparing ourselves for a longer preseason, which is really good for all the players, and hopefully we can lower our injury rate coming out of this lockdown. And for South Africa as a whole, I think it's obviously if we can have our best players on the field, at the end of the day, the Springboks will have the best players on the field.
How different does it feel? Because it feels to me like we've almost gone back to like before you were born, when we had the old amateur rugby where you had like the whole summer off and you had a complete off season. I mean, because since you've been playing professional rugby, and probably even at school, you only had a couple of months off, and then you were playing, like you had like 6 weeks in a professional setup, and then you were doing your pre-season again. How different does it feel? Because I mean, it must feel like a heck of a long time now since you have played, and that makes it even more important that you come back sort of in a scientific way as well. Compared to the All Blacks, compared to New Zealand, we were talking about in New Zealand. Yep. Like New Zealand, for instance, didn't have nearly as long a lockdown as we did. So they had. You said they only had 4 weeks of contact and that, but also they didn't have as much of a break from rugby as you guys have had.
Kevin, it's exactly as you said. I think it's going to be crucial for us to work really hard in this time. I know the coaches they've got good plans for us for our return to play. But can you just repeat that question again? Sorry.
What it's really, I mean, the main part of the question is just that it must feel different now to normal, because you've had a heck of a long break this time.
Yeah, definitely. It's been coming a long way. I think it's been probably plus minus 2 months or 3 months that we haven't played any rugby, which in a normal rugby calendar, you only have about max 2 weeks off before you start with a preseason. So I think it's completely different to what we used to. But as I said earlier on, I do believe that it could be beneficial. But it's crucial that we do prepare ourselves for a high level of rugby.
Rito, also just quickly, what have you made of the way that the breakdown's been officiated in the New Zealand competition? We've seen them sort of emphasize a quicker breakdown speed. Is that something that you've sort of factored into your preparations or sort of taken note of?
Yeah, look, it's been quite interesting. From a coaching point of view, we were very interested in seeing how the refs maintain the way they're so strict in the breakdown. I mean, the difference between week 1 and now, from a refereeing point of view, has changed quite a lot. And that's one thing we really monitored. And with regarding to the IRB, they are looking to speed up the game a bit more. That's why they've put up those rules. So we have looked at it. We are training slightly differently. We're trying to adapt to the new rules. But it's also crucial to take into consideration how the refs will view it from a South African point of view. You might find a situation where it's the same as the New Zealand tournament, where they're very strict initially and slowly start easing off. But we have made a few adjustments to sort of adapt to the speed at which the game is played currently.
Rito,
carry on, Gav. Sorry.
Sorry. For a forwards coach, like not having contact must be like being a swimming coach and not having water in a set, you know, and the water to train in, because you know that's what a forward does. I mean, I can't think of anything more opposite to the sort of concept of social distancing. Has there been any sort of like word on when you're going to start contact training, and how much are you and the forwards looking forward to that?
Yeah, look, no one really knows at this stage. You know, we don't know when we're going to start contact. We are looking forward to doing a bit of contact, but it's quite crucial for everyone to understand that rugby is slowly changing. You know, we're looking more to get 24-hour athletes. We need our players to be aerobically fit and all of that. So all the things that are outside contact, we're trying to work hard on getting right. We want our guys to have a good running base. We want our guys to be able to do research on other teams and sort of present it in front of their teammates. So all those things we're working on. But to sort of answer your question, we are hungry for contact, and we're not sure when we'll be able to do it again.
I was actually Rito Hlungwani from Sport 24. I was going to ask the same question as Gav. But just following up on that, would it be a situation where if you were given a date, you know, and it was kind of start of next week, would you be able to transition into a contact space immediately? I mean, how long can you push the kind of cardio thing without contact in terms of, you know, the training kind of programs? I mean, will it be something that you can flick a switch and just start light contacts almost immediately, or will you have to kind of work towards that a bit once you know the date?
Yeah, I think the nice thing about it, we've got a good medical staff, good SNC team, and they're quite involved when we do our planning. And they're always able to give us good advice in terms of how long it takes for a player to be contact fit. So we would have to work towards it. As I'm thinking off the top of my head now, we wouldn't be able to make a quick switch and start doing contact now to play next week. We would love to have a bit of time to prepare the players so that we can avoid injuries. It is tough, especially even in the preseason or under normal circumstances. When you start doing contact, there's usually a few niggles there and there. So we would love to have a bit of time to work towards it, but we'll have the advice of our medical staff to sort of move forward with those ideas.
And just from a technical point of view, I mean, how long would you need of taking hits and scrums and doing lineouts and breakdown work and proper tackling from a training point of view before the guys would be, you know, not even from a fitness point of view, from just technically ready to play matches again?
Yeah, in the perfect world, you want to build it up, right? You probably need about 4 weeks to build it up. But we understand under the circumstances, we might have to squeeze that in. But the ideal time would be 4-week period. which would be a month to build up the contact. So you want to start from the bottom and peak and slowly build it down. So yeah, we'll take what we can get at this stage.
Sure.
All right, guys, are there any more questions? Adnan?
Yeah, Rita, just on the training, I think the last time we spoke, you mentioned, if I remember correctly, you spoke about looking at basketball and those kind of sports, how they prepare and how did that work out with the players, and was it something that you found beneficial in without any contact, especially jumping?
Please repeat that. I didn't hear the last part.
I was talking about the last time we spoke. You mentioned using basketball, looking at basketball as a a different type of exercise or something that the players could use in their training without contact. Was it something that helped the guys?
Yeah, look, from a jumping point of view, it's been helping a lot. We've been in for 2 weeks now. The Locks are able to start doing their own individual work, and we've tried to simulate, basketball jumping techniques which players can do on their own. Something really nice that we've picked up on, and players are using it now. So it has been beneficial. And from the other side, we've been looking at basketball analytics. Basketball is a little bit ahead of us in terms of how they measure and assess their training. And it's something we've already implemented in terms of, measuring the players' contributions at training, measuring the accelerations, using the GPS data to sort of come up with a holistic number that's going to help us measure their progress and their contribution to the team. So in terms of the analytics, it's also helped us a bit. And there's still plenty more that we can do as the time goes.
Baby ballet.
Say again?
I said baby ballet.
Yeah, it's good. Ballet is good for the core.
Yeah.
If I could ask Salmaan a question again, it's sort of still related in a sense to what we were talking about earlier, but from a different angle. As a former, as a quite a recent age group, national age group star, there's guys who obviously were behind you who were due to sort of play for the South African under-20 team this year at the Junior World Cup and things like that. And obviously they can't do it now because they've lost a whole year of rugby. How much of an impact is that going to have on their careers? I mean, obviously it's quite an important apprenticeship. I mean, you must have seen it as quite an important apprenticeship for your own professional career to be part of a South African effort at a Junior World Cup or whatever they call it these days. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, will what you were talking about, lengthening careers, be possibly? I mean, will one thing balance out the other, or do you think that it's a massive blow to a young player who now has missed out on playing? We can even talk about the schoolboys, for instance. I mean, you were a South African schools player not that long ago. Those guys have missed out on that this year.
Yeah, Gavin, I think something like the Under-20 World Cup is really special for any rugby player. I think it's a great stepping stone, as well as SS schools. It's a great stepping stone for each youngster coming through, and it is a massive loss for those players coming through the system. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure that the South African Rugby Union has things in place. They've got measures in place to look after those players. I'm sure they've got a great idea of who those players are that are potential for the future, and I'm sure they will be looked after. But at the same time, I think this time off was a great time for players to sharpen their sword, if I can put it that way, to better their abilities, just to better their skill set. I think it's a great time for players to improve. and look forward to a great rugby season that's coming ahead next year.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for your time. Salmaan, Rito, appreciate it. Yeah, and the rest of you will be in touch with what we're going to be doing next week. But I'm sure we'll see most of you for Supersport Quiz tonight as well.
Thanks, Mike.
Cool.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot, gents.
They didn't drop
Cheers.
off my
Thanks a lot.